Hey guys, today we're taking a look at my X-Saber deck. Now X-Sabers are basically just a really crazy swarming archetype that revolves around synchros. They can keep special summoning, they can keep bringing out their monsters, and they will synchro like crazy and activate a ton of cool effects. They can bring out a lot of really good synchros, and they could bring out, specific X-Saber synchros, which all have very nice effects on top of it. So definitely a very powerful archetype. So first off, we have three X-Saber Pashuuls. So Pashuul's really nice because he can protect himself from being destroyed, which is very, very good for a tuner, allowing you to stall to bring out what you need. You will take damage eventually, but as long as you can use him, to synchro before that happens, it's not going to be a big deal. And you'll still, be saving yourself because you have this monster to defend you. And then we have three Darksoul. Darksoul is just nice to search out what you need. Boggart Knight. Boggart Knight, really, really good. We have a 1900 beater that can special summon, which is really, really nice that he can bring out more X-Sabers from your hand. Allowing you to do very, very fast plays helps make this deck very quick. And then Emmersblade, kind of like Giant Rat, allows you to special summon X-Sabers from your deck, which is very, very good. Faultroll, this card is so good. So he can be special summoned when you have two X-Sabers on the field, which will be pretty often with how this deck works. And he can also special summon more X-Sabers from the graveyard. So you'll use him to have a really good field presence. You'll synchro summon, use his effect to summon more X-Sabers. You can synchro summon more. You can start to overload the field very, very quickly with cards like this. And then we have Fulhelmknight. Fulhelmknight, another useful card that you can negate attacks with. Also, if he rolls over defense monsters, you can special summon X-Sabers, which is very, very good for swarming. But because of his low attack, it's kind of, a debate whether that'll come up. If he has more like attack boost, then you can definitely see his effect coming into play to start swarming really, really fast. And then we have one Ragigura, so just a nice card allowing you to recycle from your graveyard. It also works on special summon, which is interesting. Airbellum can also be useful, a bit higher attack for a tuner, so definitely a good thing that you can have out there. So now for the spells, 2 MST, 2 Forbidden Lance protecting your powerful monsters, especially your synchros. Tenki, very, very good for searching out Boggart Knight. Boggart Knight, obviously I talked about his powerful effects, so being able to search him out is very useful. Not running 3 Tenki because it would be too much, but 2 is very good. Darksoul, Reinforcement of the Army, very, very good to get Faultroll. Already talked about how good Faultroll is, so you can see why you want Reinforcement of the Army. For the traps, we're going to have Gottoms Emergency Call. This card's really, really good. So if you have an X-Saber, you can just summon more X-Sabers from your graveyard. With this card, later in the duel, especially if you want to press the advantage after you synchro, or if you lose your monsters, you'll just be able to do whatever you need with this card, leading to some very, very powerful plays. That's why you run this at 3. That's how good it is. A lot of staple traps. Also, Reinforcement Truth can be useful. You can summon Pashuul, which, as I already said, can be a very good card to use. And we also have one Saber Hole. So Saber Hole is an interesting one. It's kind of like a Solemn Warning for X-Sabers. But because it requires an X-Saber on the field, it's a debate whether you want to run any of this. You can run, you can run 1, 2, or 3, or 0. But I currently think that 1 is kind of perfect. You really don't want to, not use the traps that are normally used, like Bottomless and Solemn, because you won't always have an X-Saber up, especially if you synchro summon to do something else and all that. But still very, very useful to negate summon, so I definitely want to have one of this. Very powerful card in the right situation. So now for the extra deck, obviously going to have a ton of synchros, so X, Y, Z's won't be really a thing. We also have, a decent amount of variety of levels, so X, Y, Z's aren't, as strong, since you won't be able to get them out as often. Still like having Zenmaines, always a very helpful card if you need to defend. And one Photon Strike Bounzer, just with Faultroll if you want to do something more offensive to negate effects, can be very useful. But now, getting into the real part of the deck is the synchros. Armory Arm, obviously, the best 4-star. Catastor, Armades, Naturia Beast. Because this is an Earth-based deck, you have access to the Naturias, which just adds to the insane power of this deck. High Lunely, so 6-star, extremely powerful effect, destroying 3 spells and traps on the field. That's why you run 2 of this. No reason not to run more of this because of how powerful that effect is. Also, Naturia Barkin, always a great choice. 7 stars won't come out as often, but still useful to have Black Rose and Souza. Souza can be interesting to kind of protect your monsters, or not protect your monster, protect him from trap effects, and also destroy certain monsters that can't be destroyed. So that can be very useful. And then the 8-star Scrap Dragon Colossal Fighter with some warrior monsters can be nice for him to come back. Crimson Blade are also very useful in this meta. You can also run Stardust Dragon and things like that if you want to. Then Gottoms, just the 9-star that you can bring out, has a pretty powerful effect that you can start really annoying your opponent's hand. And because it's not one of those once per turn effects, you can kind of just get rid of your X-Saber monsters like crazy and then just blow up your opponent's hand. He also has 3100 attack, which is really nice as well. So now for the side deck, again, side decks in my videos are kind of just recommended cards that can also work with the deck. It isn't a side deck for matches. Just think about this as suggestion cards. If you want to build your own type of deck or X-Saber deck, you want to maybe think about these cards in addition to the cards I already have in my deck. So Grand Soil in an Earth-based deck can be very useful. You do have a lot of different graveyard stuff, so the amount of cards in your graveyard will be an interesting kind of game you can play to bring out Grand Soil. Giant Rat is also really useful, kind of serving the same purpose as Emmersblade, still very good. Gigantus, another interesting one, because you can start swarming with this and annoy your opponent's spells and traps. It can be very powerful. Cards like Wind Up Kitten, some of those lower level Earth support monsters can also be really useful. You can use their effects and still synchro with them. Redux, another, a great card for an Earth-based deck. Definitely an interesting choice in this one. Can give you access to some interesting stuff. Effect Veiler, another choice, giving you access to some other things you could do about synchros, but currently not running this. There's a ton of other synchros you can run. Airbellum, I'm not a big fan of his actual effect, especially with his low attack. But there are other synchros out there, and this is one of them. Tiger King is another interesting choice that you can bring out with Beast Warriors, always a good effect. There are some other X-Saber spell and trap support. Saber Slash can be an interesting one, destroying face-up cards. Closed Forest can be really good in this deck because you're bringing so much to the graveyard, so that could be an interesting choice. Saber Vault is another field card you can use to really bring out those X-Saber synchros and have them have really great attack boosts, but currently not what I'm doing. The Warrior Returning Alive, obviously, to get a warrior type monster back. And Art 1 with the sword, kind of like Horn of the Phantom Beast, pretty much the same thing, just for X-Sabers. Can be an interesting one. Spirit to Earth Art can be useful to kind of exchange the X-Sabers you have in the field to bring out whatever you need, which can be useful. And Trap Stun is also really, really good in this deck because you're going for big plays. This can be definitely very, very good. I debated running this, but I went with Forbidden Lance. Definitely a choice. I can see the great potential of running Trap Stun in this deck, though. So that's my X-Saber deck. Like I said, mostly swarming, synchroing, very fast when the right hand comes along. It's not uncommon to get 3, 4, 5 monsters on the field in one turn, do 3 or 4 synchros in one turn. It's very, very easy for that to happen just because of how this deck works. But if you guys have your own X-Saber decks, post below, let me know in the comments, talk about what cards you use. You can also make suggestions for me, the cards you want to see in my deck, and that kind of thing. But thank you guys for watching. I'll see you later.